Hello and welcome to the Cheeseman podcast. This is Brendan, your host for the show. Not quite sure what happened with the jingle there, but joining me to go over the international break and talk all things Spurs whilst we're being cruelly deprived of Ange Ball. First up is Gibbo. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not been on for a Monday for a while, mate, so nice to be here. But yeah, desperately looking forward to the weekend when we can have Spurs back, mate. But yeah, get involved with some Spurs chat about the players who've been out on international duty and looking forward to getting into it, mate.
See, what I want to know more about is this cider festival that you went to, which like that does sound the most West Country thing in the world.
Yeah, well, it was just literally, it was tribute bands. So we had the Stereotonics.
Nice.
Yeah, but they were good, mate. I doubt any of them watched this, but they were wicked. Like the lead singer was amazing. And on the Friday night, we had an Oasis tribute, who were fantastic as well. But yeah, it was good, mate. Cheap, 20 minutes away. Brilliant.
No Oasis have been around like since Oasis, so that's quality.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Also joining is James. How are you doing, mate?
Pretty good. The eagle-eyed among you will notice the background's different. New house. Splendid. I'm looking forward to the international break being over. It's gotten so bad, I've started watching rugby. That's how deprived of Ange Ball I am. It's been horrific, but lovely to be on as ever. Nice to be here.
Brilliant. And also joining is Seb Short. How you doing, Seb?
I'm good, yeah. Hoping that we don't have a repeat of last week where I was moving room to room trying to find a milli whatever it is of internet to try and stay online. But hopefully we'll be all right tonight. I've moved to the bedroom and seem to be able to pick up some kind of signal there, so all good.
Top side. See, normally like it's the ex-players like Mickey Hazard or Sandro that has dodgy internet, so we're used to it, mate. So you're in very good company there in terms of your dodgy internet. But guys, yeah, so there have been plenty of international games happening. So just to go through what we'll talk about today, obviously we'll talk about Spurs players in their international duties, the interesting points, Romero's worrying injury, a new signing, so plenty to get through. And those who are watching live, please do give us a like, and it does help the show as always. And do pop in your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. First up, I guess we should really start with England. Only one Tottenham player involved in James Maddison, out of position, which wasn't great. I don't know, Gibbo, did you get the game? Did you get the highlights? What did you get anything from the
They had it on in a tent, so I watched a bit of it, watched some highlights. But the whole Maddison thing, I don't get why you'd play someone who's playing in a midfield three really well for his club, and then play someone who's playing in like Saudi Arabia, and then instead of him stick the player who's doing really well in the midfield three out on the left. I just don't understand it. I don't know how you expect to get the best out of that player out of position. It's a bit of a square peg in a round hole. So he didn't see the match out, did he? I don't know how much he contributed, but it's just a little bizarre to me, and not getting the best out of him, really.
James, it was an odd one. I mean, Southgate's always been that sort of cautious manager, safety first, so that's why he's stuck Henderson in. But did we really need to do that against Ukraine? All respect to Ukraine, and they did start really well. But did we really need to be that? Do we need to have the sort of three sitting back and push Maddison into a position that's not what is? Surely, like modern football these days, the sort of sixes and the eights, they are a bit more forward thinking. You don't need a sideways passer like Henderson in there. It was quite frustrating. And do you think that the question marks should be made about Southgate? Are you Southgate in or out at the moment, James?
Well, England aren't my primary international team, but
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but I did actually watch some of the match because I went to the pub to watch the England rugby game with my mate. So I caught the tail end of it, the second half. Baffling decisions. Harry Maguire's played 20 minutes of football this season, but he gets a start. Seems I don't know what he offers. Jordan Henderson, he's gone out to basically get a cash grab instead of playing, Foden. You could even play Foden or play Maddison in his proper position. I think you get more out of a guy like Grealish or Foden playing them out wide. Maddison is much better centrally. it's just bizarre decisions. I mean, it's hard to say Southgate out when you look at the basic, the results, right? He's done very, very well for England, better than any England manager for decades, right? Finals, semi-finals, good performances. But when you look at the quality in that team and what a better manager could get, you do have to ask questions. I suppose the bigger issue is, who is that better manager? Because the best managers in the world don't want to go into international management. Very few do. I think the best was Pellegrini at Italy. Like, you don't get many, or Bielsa maybe at Uruguay. That's like the top. You know what I mean? So where do England go if Southgate goes? But yeah, I don't think he's a very good manager.
Well, Seb, you just brought up an interesting point about Maguire. It's just bizarre. Like, obviously managers do have their favourites, but he's not played 20 minutes all season. It just seems, I guess with Stones being injured, it did limit his options, but there's Tomori that could have played there. And I guess Southgate sort of may love his sort of big lump at the back that can head it out, but it just seems a bit archaic, a bit historic, doesn't it?
He's very loyal to his players, Southgate, and it's bordering, or some would say it's gone further than stubbornness. I felt that both the Maguire and the Henderson picks, if you like, were a little bit of two fingers to the media, and I really struggle, particularly with the England team, with the whole kind of always making sure they are saying and doing the right thing. So, I don't want to get into it too much, but the LGBTQ, and we had it back in 2018, the World Cup, where it was all about mental health. And I get all of these topics. I just don't understand why Southgate seems to want to be front and centre on these things and backing his players who want to be front and centre on these things. And the whole thing with Henderson going to Saudi Arabia, when he'd said and supported certain sections of society, it then felt like Southgate, to me, what he said in the media before the game, felt like he was going to play him no matter what, just as a big kind of to the rest of the to kind of media, and or not even media, social media, saying, why is Henderson gone there? One thing that always sticks with me is that back when he took the job in 2016, he made a huge thing, Southgate, of making it clear that players would only play if they were regulars for their clubs. It was a huge thing. He said you have to be in form, and club form would take on his main was one of his main points for picking that team. Well, as James said, Maguire has played 20 minutes. I didn't even know he'd played that, to be honest. And Henderson has gone to, I mean, who knows what that league is? I can't say I've seen any of it, so I can't really comment. But it doesn't make any sense to me. And then playing players out of position. And as much as it was Ukraine, it is only Ukraine. And it seemed to me, with the qualifying position that England are in, a really good position, give some of those youngsters a chance.
Well, that's just it, because he said in the past, Southgate, that he wouldn't play players from the Championship, but he's playing someone from the Saudi League, which is levels below the Championship. It didn't make sense. We got a draw away. We're still top of the group. We're still going to qualify. So, but like you said, it was a chance to get those minutes into younger, untested players at that level. So, I think this will be. So
all I was going to say, I think, like us four now, have had the joys of watching a manager come in and be brave with his tactics and try and win games. Unfortunately, that's what Southgate doesn't do. He's not brave. Like, we 1-0 up against Italy. I know it was in the Euros in the final. And I think the problem with him is you can't knock his record, but he just needs to be braver, doesn't he? And as Spurs fans now, we can see the fruits of making brave decisions, of being brave on the football pitch and going for the win rather than just trying not to lose. And
I will caveat that with something. And I know John Stones is a good player, and I'm not here to knock Maguire, but I've always felt that there is a soft underbelly to England, even with the fantastic players that we have. And I would like that comment there where it says Rice, Bellingham and Maddison. That is definitely the midfield that I would like to see. But I do feel like behind them, there's an issue. And we've gone from playing 5 to a 4, and you have to at the back, and you have to be able to kind of support that even when you're going forward. That's why I think he's a little bit more cagey. I still don't think we've ever, from 2016 to now, had a centre-back partnership that we can 100% trust. And even if you include Pickford in that, who actually has done quite well for England, but has got kind of a ricket in him every so often, that centre area, a centre-back area, is a problem. And I think good teams will expose that if you go hell for leather.
And we've seen that, like I said, with Rice and Bellingham, they are two world-class players. We struggle to say it for Rice, but they've played in high-pressure situations. Bellingham has played in Germany, he's now at Real Madrid. Rice has just won a European trophy, he's now playing for the Goons. Like, you could see them almost. I think there was a period where Bellingham was yelling at the defence to push up. And Rice was saying to Henderson, like, having a go at him because his passing was off. So we got really world-class players there that are being underutilised. So, and well, I didn't want to dwell too much on Harry Kane, but he has said a lot of rubbish in the press about there goes the monetisation.
Yeah, you're right the first time, Bren.
In terms of the reasons for leaving Spurs, I'll quickly go through what he said now. So that was pretty much the reason for leaving Spurs. There's a lot of talk about trophies. Of course, he wants to win them. That wasn't the only reason he went. He felt he needed to be playing at the highest level if he ultimately wanted to improve. Being around the best strikers, the best players in the world. But again, not knocking the Bundesliga, but the Premier League is where it's at. Surely that it just doesn't make sense, those comments. And they are sly digs, and maybe there's reasons for that. We can sort of talk about the club and how the club treated him in his departure. But it's just unnecessary, isn't it, Gibbo?
Mate, I think he's got a bit of beef with the top brass at the club. I think that's who the dig's at. But he knows that they don't care. They don't care what he says. They don't care what he says in the press. He knows that it will be the fans that those comments hurt. It won't be. I personally don't care what he says anymore. I'm not interested. He's moved on. Great player for Spurs, but he's moved on for me. But yeah, it's those digs hurt the fans, not the people who I think he's aiming them at. And I mean, let's be honest. He said about. Did he also say sort of like, if you don't win 2 games at Spurs, it doesn't really matter? Well, he was part of that culture. He was meant to be one of the leadership group in that culture. So he's setting that. So he's one of the people who's actually accepting that. So it's just, mate, for me, it's just that he never mentioned Spurs when he's asked about what's, his favourite games and stuff like that. And I think that's all stemmed from probably back to Man City. And I think for a while at Spurs, mate, he was just doing his job. And a lot of people believed it was more than that. But I genuinely do believe that. And I loved him as a player. He's fantastic. But he's moved on. He's just another ex-great Spurs player now. So I'm not really bothered what he says.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, like James, he was saying also that, like I was saying, that he wants to win the Champions. Bayern aren't going to win the Champions League. They're not. They simply don't have the players. They tried to get in Palinha and failed there, and Tuchel's under pressure. A lot of it just didn't make sense. Of course, we're not in a European competition, so it gave him that excuse as well. But again, I don't want to dwell too much on it. But do you think he's tarnishing his legacy a bit?
Maybe. I think it's maybe reactionary to say that because he said some stupid things to the media. That doesn't make him not our all-time greatest top goal scorer. I mean, I will say that he has the ability to read the room of a 2-year-old. I wouldn't give these comments, but I look at other great Spurs player. My favorite ever player of all time, Gareth Bale. I don't recall him saying these things. There's a bit of, but at the same time, to be fair to Kane, he's answering the questions he's getting asked. Yeah, I don't think it's a dig at fans, but also he's not exactly, sending us a nice letter telling us how much he appreciated his time with us. So I don't know. My biggest criticism of Kane is he always kind of disappears in big games a little bit too much, finals, semi-finals. And that's why, to me, Bale will always be a bigger legend. All hot take. He didn't. At least not internationally.
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen. Hopefully, England do win something. Well, for England, obviously, I know, James, you're a Welshman, but yeah, we'll move on from England to Brazil, because I'm the host and I'm in Brazil. We saw Richarlison did start for Brazil. I don't know if any of you watched any of the highlights. Gibbo, did you watch it? Where he had chances. They were just, again, similarly to the game. Where was it, the Bournemouth game? It just didn't fall for him, and he had that and just a couple of block shots. And he was subbed, and there was no obviously there was no booing. It's an international game, but he was crying on the bench again. And I'm a bit worried for him, if I'm honest. How are you with Rishi?
I mean, I didn't see the misses, mate, but he just looks like a player to me that's obviously his confidence is low at the moment. I think when Son scored the hat-trick the other week, you saw him on the pitch. He had a face like a smacked ass. So he's not in a good place, is he, as a player? And I think he's extremely emotional, and he lets that emotion sort of show. And I don't think that's that good as well. But I mean, mate, I think he's done well for Brazil, scoring goals. I think he's a scorer of great goals. I don't think he's a great goal scorer. Mm-hmm. And I just think he's up against it at Spurs. I don't see him as a starter for Spurs. Some people will disagree with me, but I even look at it now, and now Kane's gone. I didn't see him as being the main man for Spurs. So I think come January, if things don't change for him, I can see him sort of asking for a move and looking for an out. I think he needs to be playing all the time, and he needs to be like running around and feeling loved. And I just don't know. I know a lot of people, a lot of fans do rate him and aren't having a go at him, but I think he just needs to be like when he was at Everton, he was playing all the time. He was more or less the main man, wasn't he, up front for them? So, yeah, I think he's just having a rough time. I just don't think it's going to work for him at Spurs. Personally, I just can't see it. I'm not saying he's rubbish, but I just can't see it happening for him at Spurs.
Thing with Richarlison to me that gets to me a little bit, and I know it's Twitter, it's not real life, but Richarlison has a bad game for Spurs, and there are a lot of Spurs fans dogpiling him. He has a bad game for Brazil, and all I see is Brazilian fans, being positive for him, and saying he's having a bad game, he's struggling, it's fine, he's fine. Whereas, certain Spurs fans, I'm not naming any specific names, aren't offering that same kind of feel. He's obviously struggling mentally with something, and I think ultimately, I'm pretty sure every Premier League club has a sports psychologist. Like, he needs that psychological help, but equally, he needs a bit of love from the fans in the same way he's getting it from his fans back home in Brazil. No football player has ever been improved by people on the internet saying they're terrible, right? Like, let's be positive. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But he's obviously a better player than we're seeing right now. And, if a little bit more support from the fans is just a little nudge in that help mentally, then absolutely has to happen. But that, yeah.
Well, he seems like an incredibly nice guy. Like, he does do a lot of charity and foundation work out here in Brazil, in the sort of the favela, poorer areas where he grew up. And as we've seen last season, when he kept scoring and ripping off his shirt and then getting flagged for offside, still got the booking. Like, he does, as we said, play with his heart on his sleeve. And hopefully Ange is the sort of manager that will nurture that will sort of keep him in check, keep him pressing, and keep his chin up. So it was Brazil still won. They beat Bolivia 5-1. It was at home. Thing with Bolivia, I don't know if you guys know that La Paz is one of the highest cities in the world in terms of altitude. It's horrible to go. I was there in June. And so Bolivia always win at home because the opposing players just can't adapt to the altitude and the thin air. But this was in Brazil, and they won 5-1. Sticking with South America, Argentina 1-0 win. There was a scare. There's compliments from Messi about Romero saying he's the best defender in the world, and the stats back it up. He's number 1 defender on the FPL, and he hasn't committed a foul yet this season. Seb, have you been keeping up to date with the injury? It doesn't look that serious because I think he's still staying with Argentina.
Yeah, I think it's overhyped. I was going to use a word then. I know we're trying not to swear tonight, but overhyped rubbish. It's the problem with social media. It only takes one person to say something, and it can spread like wildfire. I think we all expect it with Romero that we've had history of him going away on international duty, not coming back, going away on international duty when he wasn't even selected, going away on international duty and games being cancelled, so he didn't even need to be there, going away on international duty and not coming back when he should. So I think we were all kind of expecting something, and then it appears that he's got, I think it was the phrasing used was something like constricture or something like that. It means he's got a tight calf muscle. He'll be fine. Bit of massage, and I would expect him to play against Sheffield United. But I think the worry with him is obviously, talking Spurs, is we're not quite sure who the backup is now. Now Sanchez has gone. We're assuming it's Phillips. Do we want to just chuck him in at the start? But Ange has got a reputation for playing young players and calling young players up. So it might well be we see Phillips sooner rather than later. But in terms of Messi's comments on Romero, he's obviously very impressive. Thing is with Romero, and we've talked about this before, when we first signed him, particularly at the back end of that season that we got into the top 4, is there's not a lot of defenders like him. He's old school. He takes everything that's in front of him. What he's needed, hopefully what he's got now, is a consistent partner. And he's got that for Argentina, and I think he's with Tottenham. And with the added responsibility that Ange has given him, we should see the best of him. So it's good to see someone like Messi commenting on that as well.
Yeah, Gibbo. So it was against Ecuador, the 1-0 win for Argentina. The qualification, because the qualification there is starting for the World Cup, because obviously there's no Euros out here, and it's a long qualification out here. It's good that we're sort of maintaining the Argentine connection there with Romero, and like I said, I do think that he is, if not the best defender, certainly one of the best in the league on form right now, isn't he?
Well, we've seen in the comments here, no fouls, no bookings for a player that plays the way he does, shows that he's obviously been working on that, that side of his game. But I think if we're led to believe, I think Michael Bridge said in social media today that he's been told sort of by someone in sort of close quarters with Romero that if Conte would have stayed, he was looking to leave. And I think, like Seb said, he's right. I was sort of like, he's injured. He's off on international duty even when he doesn't need to be. Looks disinterested at times. So he was obviously, if we believe what we're told, he was pretty unhappy playing under Conte. So, you look at him now, he's part of the leadership, the 3 captains, him, Maddison and Son, who have all been given that extra responsibility, and he looks like he's rising to that challenge. But for someone like Messi, he's obviously probably friendly with him, plays in the same team. Somebody says you're the best defender in the world, that can just be a comment sort of off the cuff, can't it? But if Messi's saying it, you sort of think to yourself, yeah, we've got a real player here. And hopefully that partnership with Van der Ven will, because I think Van der Ven's a decent player as well, like Seb said, keeping 2 of them together and the fullbacks, and just we'll have more chance of keeping that same team play and having that consistency with the guys in front of him, the keeper behind him. He's got a bit more confidence in the keeper with the ball at his feet. And I think that'll benefit, because I think we have got a really good defender on our hands. It's just time now for a manager to, sort of believe in him and trust him and give him that, like, the bit of responsibility he's got. And hopefully he'll thrive and he'll become really good, but hopefully we'll price him out of a move, or he won't become that good that Man City or Real Madrid want him.
Yeah. You mentioned his defensive partner at Spurs, Van der Ven, who had his first call-up for, is it the Oranje? Netherlands, just call it Netherlands. James, he didn't make the squad for the first game. But he did in the Republic of Ireland games. They won the first game 3-0 against Greece, and they beat Republic of Ireland, my sort of second national team, 2-1, where he did make the bench but didn't appear. Do you think, like, long term, because Van Dijk is obviously the captain, he's their leader, but we've seen he's sort of creaking a little bit, sort of age is catching up with him. Do you think that come the Euros that Van de Ven will be starting for the Netherlands?
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, you look at their defensive options and they're pretty good. You've got Van Dijk, you've got Matthijs de Ligt, who's probably never recovered since Lucas Moura played against him for 90 minutes. And then you look at guys like Van de Ven, like, okay, cool, it's early days, but you surely have to stand up and take a look at what he's doing under Ange in our system and think, yeah, this is a guy that would work really well with de Ligt. De Ligt's a bit bigger, maybe less mobile, but you look at that, you've got a right-footed centre-back and a left-footed centre-back. That's a really good defensive partnership, right? Then again, their manager's terrible, so who knows? The Dutch used to have great managers. Now they're stuck with not very good ones. So,
is it Koeman now? Who's the manager now? Sorry,
it is Koeman, isn't it?
Yeah,
is it Koeman again?
Yeah, who's not very good. So I don't know. I wouldn't trust him to run a Bath, let alone a national football team. So maybe if sanity is restored, then yes, it would be de Ligt and Van de Ven. But you never know.
You are forgetting Nathan Ake. Nathan Ake is
yeah, that's another good shout. Yeah.
He's starting for them on the left of the three. The left. So
what about the guy from Arsenal, Timber? Is it Timber?
Yeah.
Is he Dutch?
He's out.
He's injured.
Is he injured?
Yeah, he's injured.
Yeah.
But I think Ake. I know we're talking about how good Romero's been. He's FPL defender. So far with a couple of goals, but I think defensively, Ake is probably the best defender in the league at the moment. So yeah, understandable. Well, great to see Van de Ven get into the squad, and he's very young, plenty of time. But yeah, Ake is certainly ahead of him at the moment. But I don't really care. You know, I don't care about Holland. I don't care about Man City. Quite nice for Van de Ven. Also great that he hasn't played because he's not injured, and he can come back and shine for Spurs.
Seb knows.
Well, one player who go on.
No, I'm just saying Seb knows. That's it. Don't go away, get picked for your country and don't play. I'm happy with that.
Well, one player who has been shining over the international break is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. 2 goals. So his stats against Finland yesterday, for example. 1 goal, 113 passes completed out of 108. 1 key pass, 6 out of 7 long balls completed. Dribble passed 0 times. That's decent stats for Pierre. Like, we were at the come deadline day, we were a bit annoyed.
Hold on. 2 things. Firstly, you said 113 passes completed out of 108. That is unbelievable stats.
The other way around. All right.
and also 112 of those were back passes. So, you know,
a few would have been sideways. Come on, Seb. Give him the benefit of the doubt, mate.
Come on, we're trying to be positive. Like I said, we were a bit annoyed that we didn't swap him out for Conor Gallagher on deadline day, and I think he's still got a role to play at Spurs, doesn't he, Gibbo?
Yeah, I think he has in that squad. Look, he's a good squad player for Tottenham. I agree that I think Conor Gallagher would probably be more progressive than Højbjerg if we'd have made that change, but you know, by all accounts, it was nowhere near in the end. Højbjerg was never lead. Højbjerg isn't a brilliant player, but he's better than people gave him credit for when we weren't playing very well. He's a perfectly decent squad player. He can come in. He can move the ball forwards more than he used to for Spurs. I mean, like he was desperate towards the end, but it's sort of like early and middle part of his career when he wasn't played to death, he was half decent, and he has got a goal in him. He can pick a forward pass. We've seen it. I just think he's been part of that Spurs culture for the past so many years, which just sucked the life out of sucked the creativity out of players. Is he a brilliant player? No. Will he always sort of like look for that easy sort of backward, sideways pass? Most of the time, yeah. But he has got a little bit more in his locker.
Yeah, true. Yeah, like I said, go on.
Sorry, yeah, just to add, I think one of the most important things that came out, obviously, we talked going back to the Kane comments that after he's left that didn't sound good, and then we've seen comments from Eric Dier as well about going in to see Levy. What was nice to see was the Højbjerg comments that came out over the international break about Tottenham, because obviously he's been linked with a move away, and he said, in the end, the most important thing, and I've made this very clear to the coach and the club, is that I have to show my best side, and I deserve what I get for my playing time. That's exactly the type of thing that you want to hear. So no one's ever knocked his desire, no one's ever knocked his professionalism, and as Matt says, he's victim, much like Sissoko was, I think, at times, victim to kind of the way that we've played under Mourinho. Is a Mourinho signing, and then followed up with Conte. And yeah, he's got a role to play. I don't think he's going to get a lot of game time, mainly due to the fact that we're not in Europe, and obviously we're out of one cup already. But coming on at 65 minutes, and the control that he gives you from there, and the same seen it with Perisic as well. That's if he's happy to do that, then I think that's a big bonus.
Well, James, just while you're clicking away there, you did watch the Wales career game, I assume. Brennan Johnson was a 0-0, so not the most eventful of games. Did you get highlights? What did you make of Johnson against Son in the Spurs derby there?
Well, to be honest, I've seen the highlights. I didn't watch the game. I don't really watch friendlies. I've got the Wales-Latvia game on my other monitor at the moment. I'll tell you what I think of the Latvia-Wales game, actually. Brennan Johnson has been very unlucky today because Wales have been trying to play. He's been playing up front, and usually Wales have Kiefer Moore, who, if you don't remember from us playing Bournemouth last season, he's a very tall, lanky bloke. He's like the Welsh Peter Crouch. And then they're trying to play Brennan Johnson in the same role. So he's not really had many decent opportunities because Brennan Johnson's a good player, but he's not Peter Crouch. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, I could go off and I could talk for another hour and a half about how much Rob Page is a dreadful manager. But yeah, you know, Davies, I think, has looked all right in both the career game and this game. I think Brennan Johnson's showing flashes of what he can do. He's just being badly utilised by an incompetent manager. But that's all there really is to it. Last 5 minutes there against Latvia. Probably going to get a win. But...
Yeah, so he plays 5 at the back, doesn't he, Page? With, I think I can see 5-4-1, so it does look quite defensive. Joe Rodon, obviously, the rock at the back, but next to Ben Davies. Is it just lack of service into Johnson? What do you think the issue is?
Well, I think the issue is usually what will happen is you'll play more up front, a big focal point, and you'll have wingers like Johnson, maybe Dan James, maybe Harry Wilson, who offer that little bit of pace in the front line. But recently we've gone to playing a back three, which I think they're all decent centre-backs, good wing-backs, Nico Williams and Connor Roberts. I think that system makes sense, right? But then you're playing Ethan Ampadu, who's basically, I'd say the Welsh Eric Dier, but I think he's better than Dier. And then either Morel or James. And then you've essentially got Ramsey, Wilson, then Moore, or Ramsey and Brennan and Moore. Like, it just feels too defensive. If you're going to play a back three, you've got to have at least one relatively progressive midfielder. Like, I think even Morel, who I watch a lot because he plays for Portsmouth, offers more in terms of progressing the ball than
League One. Is he?
Yeah.
Is he tearing it up in League One? Yeah.
Oh yeah, first Pompey game I went to see, he scored a volley from outside the box. He's a good player. He's like,
they need some good players, mate. They're rubbish. That's why he's struggling.
No,
They're rubbish.
Like, the issue is there are good players. I just think tactically we're completely incompetent. I mean, you look at guys like Brennan Johnson, David Brooks, Aaron Ramsey might be in the twilight of his career, but he's still a fantastic creator. I don't think Kiefer Moore's that terrible. Like, there are good players in his side. It's just being horrendously underutilized. And I would hope, I think Johnson, he's just been subbed off. I think he's been very unlucky today because he hasn't had any clear-cut chances, but he's looked all right. And I just kind of hope that, once he starts getting some game time under Ange, that will only develop his game because there is such a fantastic player in there. It's just in the Wales squad at the moment under Rob Page, he's being utilised horrifically. I mean, that's all there is.
I don't I watched a bit of Wales. I know I've kind of half followed Rob Page. He used to be Port Vale manager. I can't say I've watched him as much as James, but I think the problem is you've almost summed it up there, James, unwillingly almost, is as soon as you start dipping down to Championship and League One, you've not got the quality in the squad or the team that you need to compete at a decent international level. You're struggling to overcome Latvia and losing to the likes of, I don't know, Azerbaijan and the teams that they've lost to recently. Yeah, well, there you go. You're not, the thing with football now is the international game. We see it at World Cups and Euros and things like that now. There's not many players that we don't know about. When I was a kid in 1990 or 94, even when we saw it with like Dumitrescu and players like that, I'd not heard of them until the World Cup, and that was a chance to kind of see these new players. Now with like Sky Sports and the fact that every bit of football is on everywhere all of the time and kind of always accessible, it's very rare that you go to an international game and there's not some decent quality on the pitch. There's not many countries now that don't have a few decent players. You look at even the likes, I don't know how they're doing tonight, but Luxembourg taking 10 points in the Euro qualifying group. Moldova might even qualify for the Euros. Albania are probably going to qualify for the Euros. So there's decent spread about. But if you're dipping into Championship and League One, you've got a real problem. And the talent pool that Wales are producing is just next to non-existent.
Morale was on loan at Cheltenham. Sorry, Morale was on loan at Cheltenham Town when they were shit. Well, they're shit now, but I mean when they were even worse. And he was on loan there. He's like Seb said. I think that's a massive problem for him. Well, and Brennan Johnson, really, didn't he play right side of a front two for Forest when he played up front? So yeah, I heard that he played sort of right side of a front two, which that position, if you play in an AND system, is a winger, basically. It's like playing Aaron Lennon up front, isn't it? On his own.
Yeah, I think he's a much better Aaron Lennon, basically. He's very quick and takes on his man. I mean, just Seb, if you didn't know what the Luxembourg score tonight was, they are currently in a very close game with Portugal. They're losing 8-0.
Brilliant.
But no, like
they're doing it right up until tonight.
Up until tonight, well, yeah. The thing about Wales is like, I think club form for Welsh players is misleading at times.
9.
Okay?
9.
Oh my. Well, like the thing is, and this is what I've said for a while. If England players played with the same passion Welsh or Irish players played with, England would have won the World Cup multiple times now. That's the honest truth of it. Welsh player, you look at a guy like Joe Allen, mediocre for Stoke. As soon as he played for Wales, he looked like a Perlo, right?
When you're garbage though, you've got to play harder. You've got to put it in more.
Oh, I'm not having this. They step up their level a bit, right? They're playing with a bit more passion. The thing is, like, Morale's actually a good player. I've seen him play. I think he could probably play Championship, Premier League. He's better than Harry Winks. Right? 7 minutes. Why is there 7 minutes of added time? But there's good players in that team. It's a little bit like maybe Denmark, right? There are some good players sprinkled in there and a few mediocre ones, but you can definitely extract more from this team, this quality of team. I mean, you look at Scotland, probably going to qualify for the Euros. I mean, Kazakhstan look like they might qualify for the Euros. And I look at this Wales team and I think, yeah, there's some Premier, I'd say half the squad's Premier League quality, right? There's some very exceptional players there still. And then just losing to Armenia, who none of their players are Premier League quality, but we're stifled because we're playing an outdated system of football and we've basically just got a worse version of... I take Nuno at Wales. He'd do better than Rob Page. Rob Page... Sorry, I've been ranting. I apologize.
No, I'm going to come back to you actually, James. Just looking at your qualifying group, do you think that you got a chance to get 3 points now? So I think they'll bring you 11 on points with Croatia and Turkey. Do you think, but with a game more than Croatia, I think, how's your Nations League? If you don't get the top two, can you qualify through Nations League, do you think?
We've lost all our Nations League games, I think, because we had our Nations League games around the time we had our World Cup playoff games. So we basically just played the B team in those games because we didn't care. But I don't think we qualified through that. Well, no one cared because we were going to the World Cup, right? I was like, don't care about that. We're going to the World Cup, mate. But, I think we can still get playoffs because we might still be one of the top ranked Nations League teams because we are in quite a high league. I'm not quite sure how it works, but I look at this and I think, well, we play Croatia at home. Last time we played Croatia at home, we got a point. I think it is still doable for us. We won't win our group, but I think we can still get second or maybe be one of the best teams and then get playoffs. It's still possible for us to qualify. I wouldn't bet money on it, but I believe. I hope. Right? Classic Spurs line. But if we do qualify, it will be in spite of Page, not because of him.
Well, sticking with the home nations. Stephen McDonald there in the comments. I'm assuming you're Scottish, mate. So just a quick one. There's no Spurs players in there, but Seb will come to you about Scotland. What a run. Like, if you go back over the previous qualifier, they've won 10 qualifiers in a row or 11 or something. They've won all 5 so far this round. They are going to qualify. It's great for Scotland, and it should hopefully enhance their league a bit more, make them a bit more competitive with the neighbours down south.
Not sure about enhancing the league. I'm not about that. I think the big win for Scotland was the one over Norway. I think they 1-0 down with 2 minutes to go and won 2-1. So and I think that was in Norway as well. So that was a massive win for them. They look like they'll qualify easily. Steve Clark's proved himself to be a top man, and they're like you say, their qualification records recently have been fantastic. They've got a good core. They've got a good kind of around Robertson and McTominay. They've got good regular players. He's found a way, or certainly when I've seen them, he found a way of getting Tierney into that team alongside Robinson as well. So, yeah, good luck to him. I'm not one of these. I know a lot of people, particularly maybe from some of the other countries, Bren, you might know more about this, don't want it, particularly anti-England. I'm certainly not anti any of the other countries. I want Wales to do well. I want Scotland to do well, Northern Ireland, and Ireland, Brent. But that's another matter.
It's not going to happen.
No, they don't look like much cop at all, unfortunately.
Seb, can you just refresh, mate? You've gone a bit pixelated, just to see if that sorts it out a little bit. You're sort of drifting in and out a bit. Gibbo, what have you made of Scotland look like? McGinn is looking a bit like a world. He looks quality for Scotland. Yeah, he's all right for
very good player. Mate, I've got a lot of people on here will know if they watch regularly. A lot of my family are Villa fans. I live in an area which has got lots of Aston Villa fans in, and they've been raving about McGinn in pre-season as well, saying he's been brilliant. Like a couple of years ago when Villa was struggling a little bit, they said he was struggling. I think he was decent for him in the Championship. He came up, but I think he's got to grips with it now, and apparently he's been fantastic for him. And he looks good for Scotland. He gets around, mate. He's got a good left foot on him. He can put in a tackle. He can pass the ball. He's a decent player, mate. And hey, back in the 80s, every good team had the Scottish bloke in, didn't they? There were loads of them. So we might get back to that.
Who was our last one? Hutton. Was Hutton our last Scott?
Hutton, God, must have been.
Last one I can think of.
Must have been the last one.
Neil Sullivan.
Sullivan. Yeah. We had Sullivan, didn't we?
Yeah.
Goffey, Richard Goff.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to Spurs then. Let's just quickly round up then the Spurs in the qualifiers. So Vicario was an unused sub in Italy's 1-1 draw with North Macedonia. Again, another team that can qualify over Italy. As we said, Van der Ven wasn't used against. It wasn't used against Ireland or they beat the 3-0 was against. What was the other one? Greece. Sorry, Davies as well. Højbjerg with Bissouma. James, have you seen the Bissouma clip? That assist was filthy, wasn't it?
Oh, I haven't.
You haven't seen it?
No,
right. When that Wales game against Latvia is done, check it out. Gibbo, you saw it, yeah?
Oh. Yeah, mate. I mean, what, just brilliant feet. That area of the pitch. Just, mate, he's just, it's unbelievable to think that he was deemed not good enough to play for us last season. It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, sorry, it's ridiculous.
You've taken on my mantle, Gibbo.
Gibbo, what's also ridiculous is that Marley have apparently got 3 better midfielders than him because he came off the bench to do that. He didn't start.
Did he?
So Oh yeah, I want to know who those midfielders are that get in ahead of Yves Bissouma for Mali.
Send the scouts out, but just watching him, this season is just like you think about. He looks like £100 million player. Well, he probably is at the minute. The way money is that. But just to do that in that area, and didn't even look like he broke a sweat doing it. Really, did he? Just looked like he was taking the mick. Just top
the way
class.
he kept it away from the keeper. The keeper was there, and he sort of just shimmied, and the keeper was sold, and he was like, right, and just picked his pass.
Total control.
Excellent.
He was in total control through all that. It wasn't just sort of like his head's going all over the place and his feet, and he gets away with it. He's just in control of what he's doing. Brilliant. Yeah, you should have a look at that, James. That was quality bit of play.
It's just gone 2-0. David Brooks with a really good finish, actually.
No, there we go. Go on, Wales. Kinru, or whatever, however you say it. But he's enjoying his football, James, isn't he? Back to Bissouma. You can see him as well, just in terms of the camaraderie after games. He's sort of leading the crowds when we're playing away, going up and leading the chants from the crowds. He looks like such an important player in the squad, both for his performances, but just also as part of the team and the spirit that we've built under Ange.
I mean, I think he is important, and I think he's enjoying the pressure of the role he's in and the freedom to play the way he wants to play. I mean, you look at the last year at Spurs, he hardly got a game in under a manager who was very, very rigid and bipolar and probably shouted at his cat randomly. To come into a team where he's an important player and has a manager who's let him play a lot more freely, I can completely see why he's enjoying that. He does look like he's genuinely just enjoying to play football, and he's playing well. And just ultimately that taking up of responsibility, I think, is really, really positive, because it suddenly looks like we've got a team of players who are willing to step up and be leaders, whereas for the past 3 years we've all been sat here, or at least I have, and going, where are the leaders in this team? It looks like 11 headless chickens.
I think,
but that's
it proves, sorry, Brent. I think it proves when we debated on pods and on YouTube as well. And I'm not saying this as a criticism. I think footballers are quite simple, quite simple beings. You have to train them well. You have to train them differently. You have to keep them occupied and keep them interested. But we've got a very young squad. But what we're seeing is, if you give them the responsibility, if you make it their personal and the team's responsibility to go out and perform and play without a lot of pressure, because the manager will take the pressure off, then good things will happen. You're playing A with pressure, and B, you're taking the responsibility away from them, because essentially what Conte and Mourinho have done is basically told them they're not really good enough to play any decent brand of football. In a way, it gives them an out. It's like, well, we're not really good enough, are we? Manager thinks it. Fans are starting to think it. So we're not really good enough. It's that, can break it down to be that simple. When you've got a manager like Ange, who A, takes responsibility himself, and 2, puts the responsibility of performances on the players. Go out and enjoy yourselves. But if you perform, we'll play well, and I want you to perform. Everyone wants you to perform. There's no, it's not a question mark. We've seen the benefits of it, and it, our players look happy. Bissouma doing that I know it's for Mali, it's against South Sudan or whatever. That's a player who is enjoying his football. Simple as that.
Seen in the comments here, it may have been a friendly from Ashwara, so that may have been working. South Sudan, not a huge knowledge on South Sudan as a team, so he may have been rested. So that was one, because he is a quality player. One also player who has had a good international session is Ivan Perisic, two assists in their 5-0 win over Latvia. James, did you, because they're in Wales's group, did you catch that one?
I didn't, to be honest, no, unfortunately.
he again, he's a player that is performing well under Ange. Bar that we can just forget about the Fulham game. But Gibbo, he's coming on and he's making a difference. His crossing ability, just the way he's able to find players from out wide, he's a very useful player to have in the squad, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got that down to a T, hasn't he? Even last year, his numbers were good. He can cross the ball. He knows where to put it. very experienced, very fit for his age. I should imagine an extremely good professional, or else he wouldn't keep himself in the shape he's in. Probably at the age now where playing in the Premier League, coming on when he does for Spurs, it is probably ideal for him. Ironically, when you put him on, you're probably better off having Richarlison up front with those crosses more than Son. But yeah, I just think he's been a great professional, hasn't he, throughout his career. He's an excellent squad player, like I said about Højbjerg. Decent squad player at his age, help the younger players. I don't think he's got much of a career left at Spurs. I think he'll probably move on sooner rather than later. But yeah, still doing it for his country as well. So yeah, what a career.
It was a 2-year deal anyway, so I think this is his last season. So I think, as Keith's saying, they may go to Hajduk Split in January and they get a bit of cash, which is good for everyone. Another player.
I doubt he'll go in January. He might probably go at the end of his contract, but it's up to we. Like you say, it would be for money. I doubt we'd accept a bid for him. I think he's still under contract for the last 6 months, and you go to Hajduk Split any time.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to match the wages that he's on at Spurs either. So I think he's on about 200, isn't he? Because we got one of free from Inter. So yeah, that's probably makes sense. One other player who's had a decent break is Kulusevski. Got man of the match in their 5-0 win over Sweden. Over Estonia. He plays for Sweden. Got an assist and a goal. Anyone catch that game?
No. I've actually seen the highlights very briefly, but not enough to talk about it. I will say they have a tough group, Sweden. They're in a group of Austria and Belgium, so they might not qualify. Now, not to be evil, but if they don't play for England or Wales, I kind of want every Spurs player to not qualify, so they're nice and refreshed. I don't want them to go away at the Euros, play 3 games, go out in the groups and pick up an injury, and then they're out for Spurs for 3 months. Bit evil, I know, but
it's so hard to not qualify for that tournament. I know I'm speaking to a Welshman, so we'll forget about that. But it's so hard. I think, is it something like there's 50 countries, maybe 55, and obviously 24 qualify, and you forget about San Marino and Gibraltar and Liechtenstein and Wales and other teams. Then there's
all the minnows.
This is an unbelievable level of slander, considering England lost to Iceland. We've never lost to Iceland.
No, but you usually lose to us, don't you? It don't matter. We're not bothered.
Well,
really.
Yeah. But
and you do have to qualify for tournaments normally. That's the other issue with that. But I'm only pulling your leg. But I would expect even Sweden, if they finish third in their group, to somehow find a way to qualify through the Nations League. There's normally 1, maybe 2 bigger nations that don't qualify. But it's so hard not to qualify for that. I'd expect most Spurs players who play for European countries to be at that tournament in the summer.
Very true. Then again, looks like Italy could lose out, considering they lost to North Macedonia. And obviously they missed out at the World Cup. Oh, I'd love it if they lost. I'd love it. It's like I was
going to say, where does Brent, on your thing, where does Kulusevski play for Sweden? Where did he start in the lineup?
I don't have the lineup here. I can check whilst on the last show, I didn't even know that he was left-footed. So this is why I host. I was like, he plays on the right, but he always cuts in.
I thought you were going to say Stockholm, Bren. I thought you were going to say Stockholm.
I think he played centrally in that 8 role.
Isn't the one that the guy that just signed for Man United? Isn't he Swedish as well? The one that he sounds like Højbjerg.
Rasmus Højlund.
He's Danish.
He's Danish. Jeez, exactly. This is why I host. I don't know anything. Right. So just to round up the internationals, Manor Solomon did play for Israel against Romania in a 1-1 draw, and that rounds up the international Spurs. And unless anyone else has anything else to add regarding the internationals and Spurs players?
Just some of the younger players. I think Phillips played for the under
19s, was it?
19s, and I think he scored. Scarlett got his first under-21 cap tonight. I think Luca Gunter was on the bench. I think Dorrington played. Hold on, I might have got that wrong. Dorrington played, I think, for the under 20s maybe. So there's a few playing at the younger age groups. There you go, Paul. Big thing with the under 21s. The under 21s have absolutely smashed it playing Ange ball. Lots of people raving about how it's working down, if you like, from Ange all the way down to the youth teams playing in the same manner. Really, really encouraging to see. And obviously, not that we'll talk about this, but it looks like we are really pulling our youth system and the type of signings that we're going for together to all fit as kind of one cohesive unit in terms of a football club, a way of playing that goes from top to bottom, and signing players who fit into that no matter what their age. And obviously that's highlighted with this 16-year-old from Croatia that we look like we're being linked with. I think we might have signed.
That's a very good segue. It's got the here we go from Romano, so I'll take that as gospel. Yeah, Luka Vuskovic from Hajduk Split again. Hajduk Split coming up, so maybe there'd be something with Perisic going the other way. We don't know, but it's around £12 million the deal for a 16-year-old. Anyone seen his highlights reel on YouTube?
Yeah,
I've seen bits.
Yeah,
I haven't watched all of them yet. Didn't he score from the halfway line or something like that?
Yeah, he looks mustard. 6'4" at 16. I mean, what were you doing at 16, Bryn?
No idea.
I can tell you what I was doing at 16. I was complaining about Spurs, loving myself, failing my GCSEs and watching Game of Thrones. And that's when I picked up smoking. So there you go. That's what I was doing at 16. Not as impressive, is it?
No, nowhere near, mate.
But yeah, he does look quality, Gibbo, and like we were saying, just in line with our recruitment, looking at the future, investing in youth, finding the best young talent. Because apparently City were in for him; they turned down a bid from City for him. He looks quality, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think when you go looking for these young players now, decent young talent, I think if they can see a pathway, if they are the real deal. If they can see a pathway into the first team, they're more likely to come on. And if they want to play decent football, they're looking at Spurs now when they can see like we're playing a different brand of football, when the place looks a little bit happier. So you're more likely to get that. But I find it interesting that who's going out there and looking at these young players, because we stopped doing that for a while. Obviously, Paratici did well with like Sarr, Udogie, but who's doing that now for us? Now who's looking at this guy and sorting that? Because we haven't got anybody doing that job at the moment, have we? So I'd be interested to know, where that sort of come from, whether he's one that's been on the radar, but he hasn't played. Seb, he's not played that much for Split, has he? Has he only recently made his debut for them?
February, I believe.
Yeah.
Started playing in February. And he was, I think, he was the youngest ever goal scorer, or certainly one of the youngest players, 16 years and 4 days. I think I read something like that.
Mad.
But I think, I don't know this because there's not a lot of information that comes out of the club. No. And in a way, I quite like that, because with the All or Nothing documentary and Steve Hitchen and the embarrassment that was, I'd rather kind of that we keep under wraps who is going looking at players and making those decisions. I believe it's this Gabonini, but like us, we don't really know, do we? And like I say, I'm kind of fine with that. He won't join until 25. That's kind of international law, if you like. You can't join a club before you abroad until you're 18, but there's no problem with that. High Split, normally in some form of minor European competition, normally challenging Dynamo Zagreb at the top of the league. I think they call it the eternal derby out there, between those two. It's off, so it's normally quite an atmosphere. So we'll be used to that. yeah, and I mean, it's exciting. It reminds me of the time, that we had Coley and we were identifying young talent, young English talent, to be fair, with the likes of Lennon and Rose, but we've seen it already with Phillips coming in, and it appears that our youth team, our existing youth team, is something special. We're really, really stuff to be excited about. I've said it for about a year now that I think Alfie Dorrington is going to be a player. When I've watched them, he's always stand out to me. Jamie Donnelly is always stand out. Dane Scarlett looks like he's doing something, and I hope he really kind of finds his feet at Ipswich, because I don't want him to turn into someone that maybe has a few loans and then we sell for 3-4 million quid and kind of ends up in the Championship or League One. Obviously, we've got Alfie Devine out at Vale, so there is a lot to be excited about in those youth ranks. And if we're topping it up with the best young players from around the globe, we obviously with Feliz as well, we haven't even talked about him. Really, really exciting time. And the main thing is, we've got a manager who is going to trust these players. If they're ready, if he thinks they're ready, then age is no issue. And that's exciting to see. We all like it. We all want to see youngsters coming through. You hear the cheer crowd when a youngster gets his first game or something, whether he's Tottenham born and bred or whether he's come from Argentina or Croatia or wherever. There's a big feel, because these are the future of the club. If they're good, if we've seen it with Udogie, he's only 20. We're already talking like he could be our left back for the next 10 years. That's what we want. We want those Harry Kane types, if you like, to come through, love the club, and be part of the fabric of the club for 5-10 years.
Seb, to give it another refresh, mate. Just been a bit in and out there. One thing I've noticed as well with the defenders that we are getting, they're units. Van der Ven is a tall, quick unit, as is Phillips, as is the new guy from Croatia, or Vuskovic. So there does seem to be some alignment. There does seem to be a type of player that we're going for, and again that would suggest that we are all in with Ange, that we're sort of allowing Ange to sort of help us to dictate the type of player that we go for, and he seems quite happy with that.
Yeah, I think now, Bren, you look at it like we've said. I think we've said this before on the show, but when you look at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp is the figurehead, and you bring players in and they play in his image. Same with Pep at Man City. And I think that is what Spurs, I think Ange is the man now. Ange, it will be the top. When you think of Tottenham, he will be the figurehead of the club. He's driving it all. I'm not saying he'll be allowed to do whatever he wants. And obviously you've got whatever you think of the board at Spurs, you've got that board there. But I think that is what Spurs will be about. They will be Big Ange's team. And that is what I think. And I think the club are sort of with that. I think they're aligned with that. I think that's what they sort of the direction they want to go in. And he's the figurehead now. And so we are getting players in that will play the style of football that he wants to play. And when you listen to him talk about how he wants his teams to play, he obviously has a picture in his mind of what he wants. So it is no good. Like, for instance, Jose wanting Skriniar and the club going out and getting rode on. I'd like to think that is not going to happen, because Andrew will say, he's not the type of player we want. I'd rather bring a youngster up who is playing that type of football. I'm hoping that's where we're heading.
I think Levy's almost had and I'm going to sound, I'm not going to sound like Davo here. I think Levy's almost had a bit of a reality check, right? He hired Mourinho, the guy he wanted for years and years and years, didn't work out. He hired Antonio Conte, the guy who was like lauded. He's a winner. He just won the league in Italy with a team that hadn't won it in a decade, since I think last time they won that with Mourinho. And it hadn't worked out. And then you bring in Ange, which is a very similar kind of profile to Pochettino, and it looks like it's going to start to work again. The fans are happy. They're united again. So I think almost from Levy's perspective, he's gone, well, I think he's had his ego kicked a little bit, and maybe he's willing to kind of listen to the more, I wouldn't say more intelligent, but more knowledgeable football minds around him. And perhaps that's going to have a long-term positive effect on the club. Because he kind of got what he wanted for years and it didn't work out because he didn't know what he was on about.
And I don't think an Ange player will necessarily have to be an expensive player. The qualities that it will be about the qualities he wants, not about the reputation or the price tag or what they are.
We've never been a club that's gone out and
so go close to the mic, Seb. Sorry, it's a bit quiet.
Sorry, we've never been a club that have gone out and spent oodles of money on players. Even when we were one of the richest teams, all right, arguably we still are one of the richest teams, but when we were in the top 2 or 3, we still spent pretty much within it doesn't fit. I mean, they were so for our club, and I agree slightly with what Matt's in that we were never going to sign like a Skriniar or something like that. There has to be an alignment between the board and manager. Every manager will want, I can't think of the current best centre-back in the world, but manager will want that. We have to understand what we are as a club, and we have to develop players and give them huge opportunities, which is what we're doing. I can't see, at the moment, I can't see any problem with the recruitment that has happened since Ange has come in. Am I still terrible, Brent? Do I need to go out?
It's all right. We'll carry on. The one on the subject of the structure of the club. I think Asda Gold has announced that Scott Munn is finally due to start in his role this month. Gibbo, I think was held up a bit by the City Group. I think he was sort of finishing out, I think gardening leave or whatever. I'm not sure what was going on there, but again, and I think the first thing on his inbox tray, whatever it is that director of football. Paratici has, I think, gone, although it's weird. It's sort of the ghost of him is still lingering around, which is fine because he's delivering the goods with players. Yeah. But we do need to have a proper director of football in place. Scott Munn is not that. That's not what he's being brought in for, is it?
And it pretty much sounded, didn't it, like I think it was Ali Gold who sort of said Munn's going to be taking up his role on after the international break, and then they'll be appointing the director of football. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty much nailed on that they, the bloke that they want, the person they want. It didn't sound like he'd come in and then they'd start that recruitment process. There was talk a while ago about some guy from Barcelona, wasn't there? Whether it will be him or not, but that's it. Then everybody's in position, and we should be ready to rock and roll and kick on. Because Munn, is he just sort of like the link between the football people and Levy? That is what his role is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the sort of person that Eric Dier is going to go and moan to rather than go and moan to Daniel Levy, which and that was one of the stories from last week as well. James, I'll come to you on this one. It was echoes of Danny Rose. Oh, I'm going to go and talk to Daniel. It just, again, it looks like there was this culture of almost an air of entitlement, I think, from some players that, I deserve to be playing. I need my place in this team. And I think that Ange isn't taking that. And I think we've seen that with Dier not making the squad. But it is looking like Munn's role is to be for the players to go to. Daniel Levy will be further and further back.
So I'm going to use an analogy here to express the ridiculousness of this situation. So I used to work at a cafe. If someone who I was training and I asked them to do something like, hypothetically, can you go make the ice cream for those people who are waiting, right? Pretty reasonable. Well, I do this. If they went, oh no, I don't like that, gonna go talk to the owner, I would just be like, what the fuck? Like, what? What's wrong with you? That's what it feels like. I suppose. In what other world is there you can just fucking sorry, I'm swearing now. You can just ignore blatantly the manager. What football club? You can just ignore the manager and go, oh, I'm going to go talk to Daniel. Go talk to the owner. It's like, please. It's just embarrassing. It's not how a serious football club operates. All right, cool. I'll talk to you, Eric. Go away. Go to Luton Town, mate. That's your level. And just come in these kind of, you look at a guy like Mourinho who's passive aggressive, wants to stroke these guys' egos. Conte, in a way, a little bit. Hey, Jack, I didn't swear first. Gibbo sweared first. Sorry.
I did.
But you look at a guy like Conte, who in a way is a bit similar, but Conte's very emotional. We look at a guy like Richarlison being emotional. He's worse. Conte's even worse. You can't be a leader and let emotions sway you on a daily basis, right? And just kind of come in and said, that ain't on, mate. That ain't on, mate. Can't do an Aussie accent. And that's what's happened. And some players who have had a very, very easy ride throwing their toys out the pram, well, good. Go away. Leave. Daniel, like, why there's even an option for Eric Dier to go talk to Daniel Levy, I don't know. There shouldn't be. It stops at the manager. Enough said.
No, it's a little bit different. You have to understand, and I'm sure you do understand. It sounded a bit patronising, so I'm sorry about that. These players on both sides. So in terms of the players' view and in terms of the club's view, they're assets. They're worth money, and that's the important thing. So whereas your analogy that you had a minion, if you like. You can fire that minion and get another one in the next day. Whereas Eric Dier needs to know where his contract sits, whether they're going to tear it up, whether he's able to leave in January, whether they're going to ask any money for him, whether he's got any playing chance to improve his position for looking for a new club. So all of that has to go in. As I understood it, it was Daniel Levy who called the meeting with Eric Dier. I think football is its own business. I don't really think there's anything that you can kind of really compare to it. When you see the money involved, but B, the power that the players have, seeing it with things like Mason Greenwood and Pogba even today and all this. There's so much riding on these people who are worth millions and millions and millions of pounds. So, from a business point of view, and the players know that the power is all in the players. So from a business point of view, unfortunate and as kind of what's the word? I can't think of the word. Unpalatable as it is, these are assets, and that's where it goes. I would like Eric Dier to leave. I can't understand why Hugo Lloris is still there, but there is the element of kind of bad smell around it, if you like. But even so, they're worth money, and that's kind of what the club has to balance.
I just feel that some of those players, the environment has been too comfortable for them for too long. Totally understand where you're coming from, Seb. Like, they probably did have Dier in to say, look, we've had an offer for you. Do you want to? We'd like you to go, and he doesn't want to go, or whatever. Or, look, you've got a year left. This is what we're trying to do. But, Hugo staying around, Dier, if you really wanted to play, surely they'd go out and their agents, if they want a big move, their agents are out there actively looking to get them out of a club.
There's too much money. It's as simple as that. It's too much money being offered. Hugo apparently is on 150 grand a week. His boyhood club came in for him all right, just before deadline day. Just before the actual deadline, about an hour before, once they got rid of Schmeichel. And it was a flat no. It kind of dressed it up with some kind of I need to know the project and all this type of stuff. Hold on, mate. You've moaned about being number one. You want to go somewhere where you're number one. You were going to be number one. You're going to move back to France. You have no international duty now because you've retired. I understand you've got a young family in London, but you will surely look not expecting to be number one for a club in and around London. I don't think that was ever on the cards. So a move back to Nice. The reason? Probably because they were going to offer him 40 grand a week. It's it's a lot of money to give up, and we can sit here and go, why does he not want to do that? Why does he not want to play? Well, he's 36. In Lloris's case, he might have another small contract left in him, but actually, you're going to turn down 70, 80 grand a week difference for the next year. I know I wouldn't. And certainly not now. So
didn't he turn down Saudi?
Well, no, I don't think there was ever a strong link, was there?
No, just the Nice one, because it looked weird, the Nice one, because like you saw it come up. Oh, Nice and Schmeichel have parted ways mutually. So that's clearly for Hugo to go back. But then, like you said, Hugo, the sport, so it must have been money, or as you said, having his family settled in London. And look, he was a servant for 11 years, was captain for 8 years. So look, I think him sticking around, it's not the end of the world. I think he sort of gets the message now. Come January, he probably will find somewhere else. But we're moving on, and we're seeing from the match day squads, he's not making them, so it's very clear to him where his future doesn't lie at the club. So it will be resolved, I'm sure, when Scott Munn comes in. That's one of the for the in tray. We've been going now for nearly an hour and a half, hour and 20. This comment here from Warren. Next 4 games, Sheffield United. You have to have it with United afterwards, mate. You can't just say Sheffield. Sorry. Sheffield United, Woolwich, Liverpool, Luton. Next 4 games. Gibbo, how many points do you think we'll get? How many points? Obviously, we want to get maximum points, but where do you see the points coming from in those 4?
I fancy us. I think we'll beat Sheffield United at home. I think, international breaks, bit of a momentum killer, but you got to fancy us at home to Sheffield. Arsenal and Liverpool, extremely tough fixtures. I can't see us winning both of them. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe just took a point at home to Liverpool. And then Luton. God, Spurs, innit? That's the one I'm dreading out of all of them. You know what I mean? Like Arsenal and Liverpool, to get something from those games. I'm not saying I don't want to say it's a bonus and make us sound like tin pot, but if you can get something from them games, that's great. But Luton's the one, it's away, isn't it? And I just hope they've won a game before we play them. I'm just old school, mate. I've just supported Spurs for so long, and you can just see it, can't you? You just can see that how that game pans out, and I'm hoping it's different now. But yeah, look, let's be honest. 7 points, I think, realistic.
Yeah, this could see our first defeat under Ange in the league. So, and because like I said, those 2, the Liverpool and Woolwich, are tough ones. James, what about you?
I think we'll get 10 points. We'll beat Sheffield. I think we'll get a draw against Arsenal because we're away. Usually we lose that fixture, but I reckon we'll get a draw. I think we'll beat Liverpool because they don't look very good at the moment. They have no midfield. And Luton, they're terrible. We'll beat Luton. 10 points.
Nice quick one. Seb, how about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of siding towards James. So let's kind of keep the positivity. Things are good. That Arsenal game is big. I think if we get thumped, which I can't see that happening, but if we did, then it makes the Liverpool game very, very tricky. But yeah, I would expect us to beat Sheffield United. I still think we're kind of riding a little bit of a positivity wave. I think the ground should be buzzing, even though it's only Sheffield United. I think everyone's missed the football, and the fact you come straight into a home game. I think that'll be good. Arsenal, as I said, massive. I would take a point. I think there's question marks over Arsenal. I said it at the time last season. I felt like they did really well to kind of build this momentum, and it's something that I hope we can do. And I think it's something that's there. I think second downwards is there. 2, 3, 4 positions I think are up for grabs, and it's who's going to build this kind of good feeling, this good momentum, so much positivity. I said it on the last podcast I was on, Brent, where positivity is massive around a club, and we saw how it kind of down spiraled last season at Tottenham. It was really, really horrible, and we kind of went on this kind of vortex loop downwards and just really bad. And then the media get on your back, and the papers and Harry Kane and everything. It was just horrible. And Arsenal, for the large majority of the season, were the opposite of that. They're building. How long are they going to go unbeaten? And a lot of positivity around that stadium. So I just hope that we can that can be us. I think if we get a point at Arsenal, then I think that will carry on. I disagree with James a bit. I think I've watched Liverpool quite a lot this season. I feel like that midfield is coming together. We've got three new players in there, but Szoboszlai looks a cracking player. McAllister looks a cracking player. Gakpo, to me, looks like he could be one of the next big things. I think as Liverpool rearrange their front line, which they're going to have to do, especially, I don't know if the window's closed, but I think at some point they'll lose Salah, the Saudi window, I mean. So they look okay. And then I watched the Luton West Ham game, the big kind of Sky did a big thing on it in terms of the turnstile under the house and what it looks like from there and what an atmosphere it was. And actually Luton were flat as a pancake. I'm not saying the crowd were, but the team do not look like any great shakes. I actually get quite annoyed. It's a little bugbear of mine teams that come into the Premier League and don't give it a proper good go. And I mean, spend some money. I really wanted Forest to stay up last season because fuck me, sorry, I've done it now. But they went for it. They spent a ton of money because the rewards of staying in the Premier League are huge. I understand people getting annoyed with teams in the Championship that are spending a ton of money to try and get up there. It's almost like a big gamble that quite often doesn't pay off and you sack your managers and stuff. But once you're actually there, once that money is guaranteed, and once you know that even if you get relegated, you're getting all these huge relegation payoffs. I forgot what they call it now, the balloon payments and all that.
Parachute.
Yeah, the parachute payments, that's it. Bloody spend some money and have a good go. Don't sign Ross Barkley on 20 grand a week, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Marvellous
Find some
Nakamba.
players.
Well, I disagree with that a little bit on Luton. Marvellous Nakamba, what a name. I'm sorry, I'd like him to sign for Spurs just for the name. Like that name's elite. I don't care if he's mediocre. I mean, Luton didn't expect to get where they are, and financially as a club, yeah, like they're going to have the Premier League revenue, but it is a gamble, right? Whether or not they stay up, their business, I think,
No,
is
no, it's not a gamble at all. 200 million guaranteed and 100 million over the course of the next 3 seasons if they're relegated. So you'd spend 50 million of it, 100%. Why would you not? Because if you do it again next season, that's 400 million.
Yeah, but even if they did spend that, it doesn't guarantee they stay up, and the money they're getting currently assures the continuation of the club. It's not long ago, Luton were in administration and had to be saved by a fan buyout, which is why they're quite frugal, because they're quite, which is why, whether or not that's right or wrong, I generally like their business. I think it's okay. I don't think they're as terrible as some people think they are, but I also don't think going and spending loads of money just because you've been promoted makes you necessarily actually better. I mean, club's records of that is generally poor. Some teams have done it well, like Villa, but Forest have done it okay, I think. But you know, like it's equally as possible you turn into an Everton, right? And then you're messed up with FFP, and then that's where teams like Leicester got relegated. They messed up their FFP. They couldn't sign players. They had to keep selling. And I understand why they did what they did. I understand what you're saying, that potentially they should have just spent more to try and guarantee they stay up. But I understand both views, right?
Have a bloody good go, basically. Have a go. Just,
I agree with that.
And it played out on the pitch, because the games that I've seen them, they've looked bloody awful. And I hope it doesn't come back to bite me on the backside. I always caveat that, but they don't look any great shapes.
Can I just quickly say, out of that run of 4 games, sorry, Brad, I think that the 3 top teams this season, I think, will be City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. And obviously, we've got Liverpool and Arsenal. Get them out of the way. If we can come out of those 2 games without, possibly even just drawing with both of them, I think that would be superb. I think that would be 2 great results.
Because it's also, like I said, it's start of the season, so they may not be in their groove, and that applies to us as well. So you're right, maybe getting these games out the way now, it could be a good thing. So yeah, fingers crossed that we do beat Liverpool finally in the new stadium.
I'd love to.
And
I can't stick
and we also get the ghost of Yunus Kabul, and we actually do Gooners in the Emirates in the league for the first time. Obviously, we did them in the cup with that beautiful Delhi goal. Right, we're going for nearly an hour and a half, gentlemen. So thanks for joining. Cheers for joining, Gibbo.
No problem, mate. Enjoyed it. Good. International break for me is just like rubbish, boring. Yeah. Can't wait for Spurs to start again. But it's been quite good to chat about the Spurs players that have been on international duty, and it's flown by, mate. So thanks for having me on.
Wicked. Always, man. James, thanks for joining. Cheers
for having me as ever. Appreciate your hosting. Excellent job. Looks like I'm being dragged out clubbing with the boys, so that'll be fun. I wasn't planning to, but everyone's begging me to go out, so it looks like
I bet they are.
Oh, you're so popular. Oh, yeah. Student again.
I am.
Seb, thanks for joining, man.
No worries. I'll go and put another pound in the internet meter and hopefully get it right. I do apologise. I don't know what's gone on the last couple of weeks, but think it was a bit better than last week at least.
Yeah, we're in a treat now. Now we're knocking it on the head, mate.
So guys, also thank you for watching. Please do give it a like if you haven't already, and this will go out as audio pod as well midweek, and do look out for the Wednesday show. Gibbo, is that you and Craig on the Wednesday show?
Me, Craig, and HG. A few weeks ago, we did some predictions between the 3 of us for the season. I'll tell you how long, but then I couldn't do it for some reason. Craig couldn't do the other week, so we're doing our late predictions. my prediction for the first manager to be sacked was Lopetegui. So I've had to change that now to the next one. That's how long ago it was that we did it. So yeah, Wednesday's going to be a prediction for the season show. That's me, Craig, and HG. So if you're about, come and watch us 9 o'clock over on YouTube. Check it out on the socials. We'll put it on there to remind you. So yeah, should be a good show. HG's done a lovely PowerPoint for it.
Sounds amazing. PowerPoints are always the best. Also, there's the Friday show, which Caller is hosting, so do look out for that. And there will be a pod of the review of the Sheffield United game coming out on the weekend as well, when we finally get Angeball back. So thank you for listening and watching. And as ever, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.
Oh, crap. Brand. There we go.
Got it.